All right, welcome to Inverse Happy Hour. My name is Jake. We've got James Murray, known to his fans as Murr, sipping some green tea.
That's it.
I've got a little bourbon here, but it looks pretty similar, actually.
All right, there you go. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. How are you, James?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Home, like all of us.
Yeah. So you must be pretty excited. Your new book is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, I think like less than a month.
You got all three of them right there.
I know. We've got, well, the first one was Awakened. The sequel to that was The Brink. And then this is the brand new one. Does it appear backward when you see it?
It does.
It does. Damn it.
Yeah.
And I can't flip my camera around. There's no way to flip it on when you're sharing live. But, well, look
I've
at
got
it
it here right here. How's that?
That's the new one, Obliteration. There you go.
You see it right here? Obliteration.
There you go. That's the culmination to the trilogy.
So yeah, I wanted to ask about that. When you first started with these, it was a trilogy, one per year for 3 years. So is this it for the Awakened series?
We have two more ideas for this universe. One is a prequel set 60 years earlier, and then the other is a tangential story that you don't realize is part of the Awakened universe, but becomes it in the very last chapter, where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe it. So one day we'll get to them, but we have a couple more books coming out that we're working on first, so one day I'll get back to this.
Cool. So yeah, what else are you working on? I mean, you made your splash as an author. What other kind of genres are you interested in writing?
Well, we have a new book coming out in October called Don't Move with Blackstone Publishing. That is, I can't show it yet. We haven't revealed the cover yet. But I have a giant, you kind of see it there. I have a giant blow up of the
Very
cover.
cool.
And it looks really good. That's a standalone horror set in the woods of West Virginia about a church group from the Bronx that wanders into the wrong woods on this particular camping trip. And then next spring, we have a new standalone thriller, not a horror, a thriller coming out called The Stowaway, basically about a serial killer on a cruise ship, a transatlantic cruise. It's great fun. And then starting next summer, I have 3 more books coming out called Interns of Area 51. It's a children's book series. It'll be 3 books in a row pretty quickly. Like every 4 months, they'll release another one. It's a book series, not even trilogy, book series. And that's with Penguin Random House. And that's about a bunch of kids whose parents just so happen to work at Area 51. And they get invited to bring your kids to work day. And sure enough, on this day, everything goes haywire. And it's up to the kids to save the day. And they end up getting summer internships at Area 51. And every book is a different crazy thing happens in Area 51, and they've got to save the day. So
that sounds great.
Yeah, it's fun.
So, awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I am very excited to hear. We're going to get a little bit of a taste of Obliteration at the end of this. But first, we're going to ask more questions. If you're watching now and you have any questions for Murr, please put them in the comments. I'll relay them about Awakened and Obliteration, about writing in general, maybe about the other things he does that may be very popular, maybe not. So I wanted to ask about Awakened, the TV show. I know that at one point Awakened was optioned. I'm sure fans of the books are curious if there's any movement on the adaptation.
Good question. I literally somewhere over here have the whole pitch decks. I think they're downstairs. I was just playing with them before. My background is in TV development. That's how we ended up selling Impractical Jokers. For like a decade, I was the head of development for a TV company that makes lots of TV shows, including Impractical Jokers. And so whenever I write anything, I'm always writing with the intention of developing it as a TV series or movie. The Awakened trilogy is no different. It reads like an episode of 24, the TV show. And so when I first came out with Awakened, we had it optioned by IDW to develop into a TV series. And then, as happens often in TV, our main executive there ended up leaving the company. And so it kind of died on the vine, which happens all the time in TV. And before we ever got to pitch it. So now we're at the stage where now that we have the trilogy done and the hardcover is about to come out for book 3, we put these great pitch decks together with the entire trilogy and a summary of each book and a pitch deck as to how it would be developed into a TV show, and also simultaneously how to develop them into standalone movies. And once we're able to leave our homes, I'll be out pitching it again. So there you go.
Very cool. Here's a question from the audience, and please give us more questions so I can ask James. So I know that you wrote awakened, over a decade ago.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and so someone wants, well, I'm curious, but also this guy CP22 wants to know, how did you get inspired to write your first book?
Where do you live, by the way? Are you in Brooklyn?
I'm in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Whereabouts? What neighborhood?
Flatbush.
Okay.
Flatbush area? Yeah.
I lived in Bay Ridge, so way out.
Oh yeah, not too far.
And I'm going back 15, 16 years ago. I had like a shit job, and I used to commute on the R train every day to work, and it was just a mess. And sometimes the R train is like desolate at like late at night, And sometimes you can come home, you go out for drinks with friends or something. It's like 2 a.m. You're on the subway because you can't afford to take a cab, and you're the only person in the car, and the R train is very temperamental. Sometimes the power goes out entirely, and you're in the subway, and suddenly all the lights go out, and the air conditioner shuts off, and you're like, what the hell's going on, And when you're on the subway alone, it gets pretty scary. And it was during those commutes late at night that I had the idea. I was like, this is claustrophobic. This is crazy. And your mind starts to wander, and that's how I came up with the original idea for Awakened. I spent a year writing it. And but I wasn't on TV. I didn't have an agent or a manager. I didn't know anybody in the business. I just wrote query letters and sent them out to publishers, and it probably got returned to me unopened, the manuscript, by everybody. So I couldn't get a single publisher to read the damn book, and it sat on my computer for a decade and a half. And then Jokers happened, and 5 years into the TV show, I was like, you know what? I loved that book. It was a year of my life. I should send it out, and I did. And then they bought the trilogy, and the rest is history. And started now 8 books with lots of different publishers. So
amazing. There you go. Never give up, I guess.
More.
Here's another question from Amber about the books. Who's your favorite character in the trilogy?
Oh, Van Ness, the bad guy. He's great. I do the audiobook for the trilogy. And because we're in quarantine for the past 3 months, I was supposed to record the audiobook in Manhattan like 2 weeks ago. We couldn't do it. So I had the publisher send me, well, I kind of broke it down now, but they sent me a really nice mic. I set up in this room sound baffles all over the firewalls. They sent me a laptop where we did it over Zoom. I had the director and the sound editor over Zoom, and I was recording the audiobook for a week, 2 weeks ago. And the best character to read is Van Ness. He's just he's like Hannibal Lecter in a way, just one of those kind of perfectly normal in many ways, in particular in many ways, but just takes it a step too far. And he's a great character to read out loud. He's a great character to read in the book. He's my favorite.
Nice. I mean, you gotta love a good villain, right?
Yes, you can't beat it.
Here's another one from Mary Beth. Again, give me some questions for James, for Murr, if you got them. Do you prefer writing or being on TV?
Oh, it's hard
one.
to, I mean, nothing beats Impractical Jokers.
Yeah,
it's been a decade of my life, and I get to, so much of our lives are spent doing what we don't love. I had so many bad jobs before I got into TV development, and so many bad jobs before Jokers, and spent lots of the time in my life unemployed. So to be in a position where I get to make people laugh for a living and make my best friends laugh is an unbeatable job. And touring with my best friends that I performed with for years and met 30 years ago in high school, touring with them and seeing fans' reactions is an unbeatable feeling. That being said, I just texted a friend of mine a few weeks ago when I got I laid out, I have the covers for these 3 books and 3 more books coming out. I have all the artwork.
Nice.
We haven't released the covers yet for the other 3, but I have them, and I laid them out on the table and I took a picture. And a friend of mine asked me, he goes, "Why do you keep writing books like it's, you got TV, you got the tour, blah, blah." And I said, because there's something so incredibly satisfying about writing a book is freaking hard. You know what I mean? It's exhausting, and any kind of creative endeavor is always exhausting. It's so much easier to watch Netflix than it is to create. It's an inherently painful process. But when you get it in your hands and you touch it and you see the cover and you smell the book and when I lined up the books next to each other with all the very different cover art for all of them, man, there's nothing like that. What a great feeling as a creator. And I texted the photo to my friend and I said, you asked me once why I continue writing. I said, this is why. And I sent him a picture of the covers. And it's like, I'm like, frick, F, I don't want to say the curse. I did that. It's real. It exists. And so often what we work on in life never feels tangible. You work for other people. You're on their, you're working to make other people succeed or other businesses succeed. And so rarely in life do you feel and invest a creative, emotional, intellectual investment in the product of your work. And to actually have it tangible in your hands, man, there's nothing like it. It's a similar feeling to me than getting on stage and performing with the guys or being on set and making my best friends laugh, knowing it will make people laugh when they watch it on TV. It's the same creative feeling to me.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's something about, physically holding the product of your own work. You really can't beat it. Here's a question.
Friend, I've had like 4 more sips than you. What's going on?
All right, I gotta speed up.
You can take a break for a second and have a drink. I have a whole shaker here, ready to go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's another question from Evan. If you could cast the Awakened movie, book, show, whatever, with whoever you wanted, any actors, what's your dream cast?
Oh, Van Ness is like Donald Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe I wonder who the younger version of Donald Sutherland is now. I don't know. I'm not sure who the younger version, but he's the perfect role model for that character, I think, especially from, do you remember the movie, the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the 80s with Donald Sutherland? Is so freaking cool. Anyways, that's the model for him.
I've seen the original. I don't know if I've seen
You've
the
seen
remake.
the original. The remake is great.
I'll watch it.
Okay, it's great. Great ending. Great ending.
Nice.
They just made fun of the ending on South Park. There's a famous episode where they make fun of the ending of it. Anyways, I think he'd be great for Van Ness. Cafferty is like a younger, either Ray Liotta or Andy Garcia. Sarah Bocutt is, I have it in mind, it would be Tristan Mays from the CBS show MacGyver. This is a perfect role model or perfect character for that type. I actually do think Sal and Q from Impractical Jokers would be the perfect train operators in the first book of Awakening. It'd be great. Nice. I wrote after them. Joe in Impractical Jokers was a character in the first book, but in rewrites I ended up changing the character to a Spanish guy from the Bronx, and so his character.
Oh well,
it happens. You got cut and rewrite.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There we go.
Whiskey. I was wondering, so I'm sure, all television is on pause right now. The Impractical Jokers are on pause. I'm curious, have there been any sort of like virtual pranks going on?
Well, we just started a new TV show from home. It's so the audio booth took up the office, and I took over my dining room. To my fiance's dismay, I took over the dining room for our new show, Impractical Jokers Dinner Party, which I'm filming an episode tomorrow. It airs every Thursday night on truTV. It started last week. So we do dinner party from 10 to 10:30 on truTV. Then you switch over to TBS to watch us on the Misery Index from 10:30 to 11. And that show is like our version of what we're doing at home. It's like us riffing and making fun of each other and doing like our friendship on display. There's plenty of pranks to be had at home. If you are at home, go for it. There's nothing else to do. There's only so many documentaries you can watch on Netflix before you're like, screw it, man, I got to do something else. So there's plenty to do at home.
For sure. I know you've in the past talked about like the different horror and sci-fi that inspired this. I know you're like a big sci-fi fan, I think.
Yep.
I'm curious. Just take a drink while we.
That's it. I'm pouring more.
Are you, by any chance, a fan of Rick and Morty?
Yeah, we're friends with Justin Roiland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're
cool.
We've known him for years, and it's I'm a huge Back to the Future fan too.
Oh yeah, of course.
So there's my love.
The original script,
yeah. So I'm a sucker for all things time travel and things like that. So no, I love the show. They're great guys too.
You've never been, or have you been? Would you ever be a voice on that show? I feel like
I would love to. I think they'll probably ask Q first. He's closest with them, but I would love to. We were just talking literally yesterday about maybe one day doing some kind of animated project. So.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Animated Jokers. I like it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about The Matrix, which I know you've mentioned before, especially with this Matrix 4 movie coming out. What are you thinking? Are you excited for it? Are you worried?
Are you ready for this?
I am
There
ready.
is a rumor, and it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
The Matrix 4 comes out the same day as John Wick 4. The same weekend. They're releasing both movies at the same time. There is a rumor going around online that the two movies are in the same universe.
Yeah, I've heard that.
John Wick is set in the Matrix universe, and that's Neo come back and doesn't remember that he's the one, and he's living this life of John Wick. That's how he's able to freaking defy physics and never get killed, and he's just unstoppable in every movie. And if that happens, if there are two movies released and you don't realize until the end of both movies separately, you have to see both movies the same weekend, that they're set in the same goddamn universe, my mind will be blown. There's going to be a life before that and a life after that. It would be like the first time you saw the original Matrix, or the first time you saw Inception. You're like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know, if that is true, because why would the studio release a movie with the same star in the same weekend? It's baffling, right? You're competing against it. But if they did it intentionally, because the movies are connected, and you see one on Friday night, you're like, shit, it's part of the Matrix, and you have to go see the Matrix the next night, or vice versa. That would be the most brilliant marketing ploy I've ever heard in my life.
That would be incredible. I've heard the same thing. I'm really hoping it's true.
Me too.
In a similar sci-fi vein, did you by any chance watch those UFO videos the Pentagon released earlier this year?
Dude, I've been tracking that story for years.
Oh, yeah? What do you think? Give me the Murr analysis.
Well, I mean, you know, the objects move differently than any plane I've ever seen. That's for damn sure. And these are like trained professional pilots. Like they're not. It's not some kid. It's not some somebody that's flying a little prop plane. It's not even a commercial jet. These are professionals that are trained not to panic and to analyze the situation, and then to see the footage and see the way the objects move. Man, I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't know. I do think we're all like, how does something move in that way and defy physics? It could move that way if it's extraterrestrials. It could also move that way if we're all living in a simulation, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, they're also very true.
Yeah.
Here's a question, a space question, Impractical Jokers. Something I was thinking about. Would you ever do an episode in space? Is that possible?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of hurdles that need to happen to be overcome that. Oh, they just scrubbed the launch. You saw that like 2 hours ago?
Did. That was going to be you on that ship, right?
Damn it. Goddamn Florida weather. They just scrubbed the damn launch today. I was excited for that, to see that.
Me too.
Yeah, I would love to. You know, we did something years ago. You remember the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Of course.
I did a joint Ice Bucket Challenge with Yanni, the musician. And at the end, he's friends with everybody at NASA, and he's friends with, what's his name, Scott Kelly? Is that his name, the astronaut? Up in the space station, and dared him to do it. So I'm kind of like, I was close to, and then I got a tour of the Johnson Space Center by an astronaut, and got to like go on the floor, and like, it was really, really cool, because Q and I are huge NASA fans too. I would love it. And we were supposed to, in the Impractical Jokers movie that came out, we were supposed to film a challenge at NASA at the Kennedy Space Center down in Florida, because the movie goes from New York down to Florida, and we couldn't get the schedule to work, but we will one day. I think the closest we'll get is filming at the Kennedy Space Center. I think that will happen one day.
That's pretty good. All right, well, that'd be awesome. All right, I want to get to this reading because I'm really excited to hear Obliteration. But first, let's just do a quick. I've been doing this with everyone on the show. We call it a post-apocalyptic lightning round. So just a few rapid-fire questions about the post-apocalypse for you.
Hit me.
All right. If the singularity happens and you could put your brain in a computer and live forever, would you do it?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, with a caveat, I would live out my life, and then before I die, do it. I wouldn't do it now and say I'm done at 44. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, that's a good point.
I want to do a lot more physically first, and then at like 78 years old, boom, plug me in.
Okay, next question. Good answer. Next question. If the zombie apocalypse happens today, where would you go to try to survive?
I think about this all the time. I've actually in detail conversations with my fiance about this very thing. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Literally a few weeks ago, I literally said to her, I was like, if shit goes bad and people start turning into zombies, what have you, what do we do? So we buy more ammunition first. We raid the store before when the news. The other one I talked about a week ago was what if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupts? Right. That happens.
Yeah.
Same thing as a zombie apocalypse. We have a very limited time where people are going to be watching their TVs, not realizing the ash cloud's going to take out the East Coast too, right? And screwed, and we'll be in a nuclear winter. I said, first thing we do, we go to the gun store, we buy a shitload more ammunition. Second thing we do, we go straight to the grocery store, we take everything we possibly can. Third thing we do, we go to Home Depot, buy every board we could possibly find, every nail, every hammer, and we board the house up and we prepare. And this same rule applies for a zombie apocalypse. This is what I would hunker down here at home and board everything up and put up on ammunition and food and water and canned goods and be ready to go.
You've clearly thought about it, and that's a good answer. All right, next question. If you could help colonize Mars, but it meant you could never come back to Earth, would you do it?
No.
No.
I've seen Total Recall. No way, man.
And last question, and this one's a little more poetic, so just sort of don't take it too literally, I guess. Would you rather be a robot with a heart or a human without a heart?
Robot with a heart. You gotta have a heart.
You gotta have a heart.
Sure, man. Do what you love.
Yeah.
Have a heart.
Have a heart.
Have a heart. Karma comes your way. I'd rather be a robot with a heart.
I like it. All right, we're going to get to the reading. There's one question from the audience that's too good not to ask. I'm going to ask it, and then we're going to do this reading because I'm super excited for it. All right. How would you prank Elon Musk?
I think he's pranking the world right now. It's hard to prank such a master. He's pranking the stock market. He's pranking his shareholders. He's pranking his consumers. He's pranking the city in California where he insists on reopening his plant. I think he's doing such a masterful job of pranking all of us that it's hard to beat a master. That being said, I will say my favorite Elon Musk story is, have you ever driven a Tesla before?
I haven't.
So I've never owned a car in my life until a few months ago. And I bought a Tesla. And my second car I'm going to buy one day is a DeLorean, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I bought the Tesla, and it has a feature on it called Joe mode. You can turn it on or off. And basically all it does is some guy named Joe complains to Elon Musk on Twitter that when you turn on or off the autopilot, it dings pretty loudly, and it waking his kids up in the back seat. So he tweeted Elon Musk saying, can you please lower the volume of Joe of the dinging? And his name was Joe, and Elon Musk rolled out a freaking software update called Joe mode, which lowers the goddamn volume of the car. And that is amazing to me. I love that story. So cool. Since I own Tesla stock, I wouldn't want to prank him too badly.
Sure.
I love the company. I like the direction it's going in. And let's hope SpaceX goes well this week when it happens. And to all the best, but tell them to stay off Twitter and stop pranking the rest of us.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. All right, let's do this. We're going to hear a reading from Obliteration. Can you give me like a quick setup so we know what's going on?
Sure. This is a standalone chapter, meaning that obviously most of the book is connected to the rest of the trilogy. You kind of have to know the characters and know what happens to really understand where it's going. But as a standalone thriller, it tracks no matter what. We do have a backstory to make you understand what's going on. That being said, this is one of the rare chapters in the book that is standalone. You could pick it up out of the book and it would make no difference. It's just a really scary single standalone chapter. Awesome. Characters you'll never see again. I've only read this twice before out loud, but I'll do my best. This is also the galley, so it's not quite the final version. I get the final version in about 2 weeks when they send me the hardcovers, but I will do my best. So enjoy Chapter 6 of Obliteration, the culmination of the Awakened trilogy. Here we go. Take a sip. Cheers before I start. I'll do my best.
You got it.
Chapter 6. Although I did just read this in the audiobook, so it should be fine. Here we go. Chapter 6. Mike Giano walked along a corridor to his high roller suite in Circus Circus. He grasped the hand of a lady he only knew as Cindy. She was wearing a tight red dress showing her voluptuous curves, maybe 30 years old. He wasn't sure. She was most definitely out of his league, but his natural charm had clearly won her over. This morning, he dressed to impress. Skinny jeans, a white linen shirt unbuttoned to the center of his chest, ensuring he flashed his thick gold necklace. It was most likely real, too. He avoided tucking in his shirt to conceal his growing potbelly, a classic fat guy trick. The short sleeves flashed his inked biceps. He wasn't exactly ripped, but for a balding man approaching his mid-40s, he thought he looked pretty damn good. Distinguished, even. To complement his appearance, a squirt of Stetson cologne had given him a woodsy, citrus aroma compared to his competition at the casino bars. Morbidly overweight desperados with cigarettes constantly jammed between their lips. He didn't need to sink that low. The thought disgusted him. He'd upgraded to e-cigarettes long ago. And the ultimate ace in his pocket? He had a suite in the hotel. Women love suites, is what he heard. He also had the decency to put his wedding ring in the safe, so all good there. You got booze? Cindy asked. Mike smiled. Does a shark have a waterproof nose? What? Forget about it. There's a minibar. It's expensive. So what? I'll take the hit to him. His excitement grew as they neared the room. He'd previously had no luck at the tables or the slots. $500 hosed in under 2 hours. Something he couldn't really afford with a wife and 2 kids back in Michigan. After his losing streak, he'd hung around the bar. 6 rejections later, he'd met Cindy, a fitness instructor from Tyler, Texas. They immediately hit it off, talking about their love of action movies and barbecue. Cindy and he had talked for over half an hour. It felt like he'd known her for years. It was like she understood what he was all about. She had an insight into the male psyche that he'd never encountered before. She knew what men were about, clearly. Here goes. Mike placed his key card against the door. He opened it and waved Cindy inside with a flourish of a ringmaster. After you, madame. She frowned at him. Are you sure you're not drunk? Only had 5 Moscow mules, he replied. I could easily had 6. She shook her head and entered the room. Mike closed the door behind him and spun to face her. Sure, the high roller suite at Circus Circus had cost him only $100, but it was the best room in the hotel, with a living area, a separate bedroom, and a huge bathroom. Cindy peered around. Is this really the presidential suite? She asked. Mike nodded. Yeah. Which president? Carter? Cindy sassed back. She took off her purse and reached for the zip on the back of her dress. Holy shit, this is happening. Oh, one last thing, Cindy said while unzipping her dress. Anything for you, babe. You need to pay up front. Mike's eyes widened. Oh, excuse me? You need to pay up front. That's standard here in Vegas, baby. It's not that I don't trust you. Oh, you're working now? She rolled her eyes. Does a shark have a waterproof nose? Mike hadn't realized. The revelation momentarily hurt his ego. He imagined the bums in the casino bar laughing after he'd left. He'd given most of them the triumphant grin on the way past, like he'd been the victor in their unspoken competition. He might have even given one the finger. Yeah, so How much are we talking? He asked. Depends on what you want. Mike did fast math in his head. 500 lost on the casino floor, 100 on the room, 5 Moscow Mules, pay-per-view last night to watch that new hidden camera movie that just came out. UberX from the airport. Damn, it adds up fast. 200? He replied. She shook her head and held up one hand. That's what you get. I'm going to use the bathroom first. Okay, it's right around there. Cindy sauntered through the bedroom and headed for the bathroom. Excitement rose inside him, a feeling he hadn't experienced since his last business trip. He stripped naked and slipped on a terry cloth bathrobe, leaving it loosely fastened around his waist. Mike checked himself out in the mirror. He sucked in and puffed out his chest. A clatter of noise suddenly came from the bathroom, followed by silence. Hey, he shouted. You all right in there? You need to pay up front, Cindy's voice said from behind the closed door. This sent a wave of irritation through him. If she planned on talking turkey all through their experience, it promised to be a total turnoff. Okay, I get it, he replied, opening his wallet and counting out $200. That left $80 in his wallet. Plenty for the taxi back to the airport and maybe another pay-per-view tonight. He already had maxed out his credit card, so reception would have to take cash. He was dying to watch Anaconda again. Then, her identical voice again, from behind the bathroom door. You need to pay up front, she repeated. I said I get it, he said, annoyed. Mike entered the bedroom, attempting to push her parroted comment to the back of his mind. The crisp ivory sheets had been spread to one side, and her dress lay across the top of them. He sat on the edge of the bed, waiting for her to finish whatever she was doing in the bathroom. He reached across to the bedside cabinet and grabbed the half-drunk glass of wine he left there the previous night. It tasted warm and sour as it gushed down his throat. He squeezed one eye shut, wincing. You need to pay up front, she called out again. What the frick? Mike replied. He strode over to the bathroom and flung the door open, ready to demand that she leave his suite immediately. Enough was enough. The large bathroom had a mirrored shower to the side. No water was running. Cindy wasn't on the toilet or at the sink. The curtain was drawn across the bath at the far end and had stains across its white surface. What the hell has she done? Mike stormed over and swept the curtain to one side. Cindy lay slumped in the bathtub, eyes rolled back in her head. She had huge slash marks across her stomach, and a shallow pool of blood lapped against the lower parts of her body. He clasped a hand over his mouth to stifle a scream. How? Suicide? What do I do now? He glanced up for any signs of security cameras. None. They'll think I did it. What do I tell my wife? Mike spun to face the bathroom door. He needed to think this through. As he turned, a massive black creature exploded through the mirrored shower door. Blood dripped from its razor-sharp teeth. Its tail whipped from side to side as it advanced toward him, blocking off his escape. Mike stumbled back in shock. His legs hit the bath, and he collapsed backward. His backside crashed against Cindy's wounded stomach, and he whacked his head on the edge of the tub. His eyes went hazy, possibly from a concussion. Cindy's warm blood saturated his white robe. The creature approached, wide-eyed with excitement as it towered over its prey. It leaned down close to Mike's face. You need to pay up front, the creature said, its vocal cords perfectly mimicking Cindy's voice precisely. Equal parts terror and regret instantly spread across Mike's slumped down face. Before he had a chance to look up, two powerful hands clamped around his head. Claws immediately sunk into his temples. The hands crushed hard against his skull. The creature ripped him out of the bathtub and held him a few feet in the air. Cindy's blood dripped from the robe onto the tiled floor. Mike screamed long and loud, hoping somebody would hear, hoping somebody would help. The creature swung his body toward the towel hook on the door, then thrust him downward with tremendous force. The blunt hook crunched through his spine, just below his neck. His legs went numb. He could no longer move his arms. The creature took a step back and watched as Mike swung gently from side to side on the door hook, the life draining from his body. He wheezed out a gurgling, dying breath. Not yet sated, the creature raised its thick black arm and rammed 3 razor-sharp claws into Mike's neck. Everything instantly went black. And just like that, Mike's business trip had come to an end.